Y'all can say whatever you want about the last administration. You can say whatever you want about Trump and the current administration. But he's been in office for about 5 minutes. And Western North Carolina is getting the help that they have needed and begged for months. So thank you, Trump. Thank you for this administration. And thank you for all those people who have stuck by the people in Western North Carolina. We're so grateful for you.
Our little community is not, in my opinion, important to the nation.
We will begin the complete restoration.
The fact that President Trump talked about North Carolina in his inauguration speech
was amazing.
And then it's coming the first week. That's got to bring people some hope.
Yeah.
Even if they're not Trump fans or even if they're not Republicans, if they just need help.
It really does.
There's no politics here. There's people who need help, and they don't care who brings it.
So it turns out that within the first 48 hours of the brand new Trump administration, the hurricane victims in North Carolina were finally getting the relief they desperately needed after several long months. And on one hand, that is obviously a good thing that should be celebrated. But on the other hand, it has to completely and utterly infuriate you. Because guys, for how long did we hear from the outgoing Biden administration that basically the federal government is doing everything they can? There's nothing else we can do because FEMA is allegedly out of money, despite the fact that the government, including FEMA, has billions of dollars to be spending on housing illegal immigrants. By the way, that was never a conspiracy theory. That was literally a real thing that was happening. I don't want to hear any talk about, oh, it was coming from a different department of FEMA. It doesn't matter. The overall point is what? The federal government doesn't have money for its own freaking citizens, allegedly, okay, allegedly, but illegal immigrants, just fine. Foreign aid to other countries, that's just fine. Literally, one of the single most greatest betrayals of the American people by the Biden administration that he ever did. And that's arguably saying a lot, but that's what we heard. We heard that it was supposedly a right-wing conspiracy theory to even remotely suggest that Joe Biden might be slow rolling the aid to North Carolina because of the political affiliations of these people and maybe even some other affiliations, right? So this is what we kept being told. And then again, as soon as Trump takes office, boom, it magically turns out we do have the money and always had the money and the resources to be helping these people. There's a lot more that we could have done. And I really think that Trump perfectly summarized the theme of today's video in his inauguration speech itself. So before we get into today's story and its coverage, let's just first remember what Trump had to say about North Carolina the moment that he was sworn in. And it's very relevant to the story you're about to hear.
Limited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn from weeks ago without even a token of defense.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I want you to keep this theme in mind. The literal, I would argue, not just incompetence, but malicious betrayal of the American people by the last administration and arguably, our political establishment for a very long time. As we get into today's story about, again, the help actually does exist. Wow, we actually can help North Carolina, as it turns out. The wealthiest nation on earth does have the capacity to protect its own citizens at the most basic level. I don't know. I guess the winds of change are blowing, right? But first, folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe if you are new. You subscribing is the #1 way to ensure we can keep bringing you this coverage and that stories like this are not buried or forgotten about. So again, hit that red button. Totally free. Greatly appreciated. And with that said, okay, so what is currently now going on in North Carolina? Was it turns out within the first 2 days of the new Trump administration, they finally moved the hurricane victims into actual actual fully furnished apartments, right? Because keep in mind, for the longest time, all that FEMA was giving these people was basically at best, right? At best. Because keep in mind, a lot of people were literally homeless. A lot of these victims were genuinely sleeping out in tents in the middle of the freezing cold. You know, there's stories of people who were sleeping with babies in tents while it was literally snowing on the ground in North Carolina. Just absolutely insane. But best case scenario, these people were being kept in hotels, and in many different cases, FEMA, again, supposedly out of money, did not have the funds to keep people in these hotels for an extended period. So even in these cases, a lot of charities and non-government organizations had to come and actively bail out FEMA and make sure that they would pay for these hotels. It's just absolutely insane. But take a listen to this one North Carolina resident who finally, within the first days of Trump, got moved into a apartment that was livable for a long-term situation. And understandably, she was extremely emotional about it.
When I found out that I was actually going to be able to get an apartment, I was just like relieved. And it didn't really hit in until I like walked in here and saw a kitchen table and a bed. And I was like, oh my God, you guys got me cups. I mean, it just had like just enough to where I could bring in my own things. And then I started crying when I saw the bed because it's just like, it's just very comforting. I'm like, oh, I get to stay here for a little while. So that was nice. And then we did hugs with the FEMA guys and Gordon, who helped me get in here. And then the dogs somehow knew that this was where we were going to be for a minute and had a band of a time. And I just like sat in here and was just like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay for a minute. It's a great relief.
I don't even know how to respond to a video like that. It is just so genuinely heartbreaking and, again, infuriating. You have to be angry about this. Don't just be sad or happy. Be angry of the betrayal that has happened to the citizens of our own country. Okay, do you think it's some type of magical coincidence that for months we were being told FEMA has no space, no money, they're doing everything they can, and then boom, 2 days within the Trump administration, FEMA's like, okay, guys, here's a bunch of apartments. It turns out we had this all along. It's just unbelievable, okay? It's unbelievable. And, obviously we should celebrate Trump as a positive, and he is, but, it shouldn't take this, right? It shouldn't matter in like the wealthiest nation on earth, whether the president is a Democrat or a Republican or whatever. The government should be able to provide basic services like disaster relief to its own citizens. That's not a crazy thing to guess or ask for, okay? But as it turns out, for a lot of citizens of this country, the 2024 election, all of our rhetoric about it was not hyperbole, right? It literally was an issue of life or death for American citizens in this country. It literally was an issue of survival for the American people, because we have been so utterly betrayed by the past leadership in this country that, again, as Trump brought up in his inauguration speech, we have a government right now that is giving billions of dollars to shelter illegal immigrants, again, including through FEMA and people under the CBP-1 program under Biden and all of this. Again, a lot of money to foreign countries, nothing for its own citizens. It's disgraceful. And again, within, minutes, I'd argue, basically minutes of Trump calling this out as he was, becoming in as the 47th president, suddenly it all starts to change.
FEMA is getting in the way of everything, and the Democrats actually use FEMA not to help North Carolina.
It makes no sense.
So I'm stopping on Friday. I'm stopping in North Carolina, first stop, because those people were treated very badly by Democrats. And I'm stopping there. We're going to get that thing straightened out because they're still suffering from a hurricane from months ago. And then I'm going to go to California.
And look, guys, it's going to be a long road to recovery, and we obviously wasted a lot of time in the waning days of the last administration that could have been used to move people back into their homes or at least start the rebuilding process. but very early on into his Trump administration. In fact, as he announced there, right, the very first trip anywhere he's going to be taking is going to be to North Carolina. Again, first official travel as the 47th president to North Carolina to visit and survey the damage and talk to the victims, etc. After that, he will be going to California, which is very ironic. Let's also talk about that. I mean, when it came to bailing out California, Biden offered Gavin Newsom a blank check. He said, spare no expense. We're basically going to be removing all of the red tape that will kind of speed up the disaster relief process. Obviously, California is a Democrat state, Democrat governor, etc. But when it came to North Carolina, endless red tape by FEMA is largely to blame for what was getting in the way. And again, it's just, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. But now take a listen to how the news of Trump's visit is being, received on the ground by the people of North Carolina. And you will start to understand again why the 2024 election literally was an issue of survival for the people of this country.
But the water was so strong it bent these steel beams around that tree. But this is the destruction of my home, this right here.
What goes through your mind when you come back out here and see all your stuff like this?
It's horrible. This is family property. My father gave me this land.
What are the biggest frustrations with FEMA?
Just having to wait, sit and wait, and constantly going to check, and they're like, yes, you're in the system. Yes, we're working on it. Yes, we're trying this. Our little community is not, in my opinion, important to the nation.
We will begin the complete restoration.
The fact that President Trump talked about North Carolina in his inauguration speech
was amazing.
and then it's coming the first week. That's got to bring people some hope. Yeah. Even if they're not Trump fans or even if they're not Republicans, if they just need help.
It really does.
There's no politics here. There's people who need help, and they don't care who brings it.
And it certainly does bring people hope, Nicole. I've heard that from all sorts of people here on the ground. I want to show you this video, though. Christine, who you just saw there, who lost her home, this is video that one of the neighbors took of her house actually floating away during the hurricane. The river there just took her entire house miles away, so she pretty much just lost everything. The stories are just so sad, and there's still so many of them 4 months later. Nicole?
All right, and Brian, what are people there saying about President Trump visiting that area tomorrow?
I think there's a lot of excitement. They feel like they've been forgotten here for so long. And the fact that not only did he mention North Carolina in his inauguration speech, but that within the first week of his presidency, he's making it a priority to come here to Western North Carolina means a lot to them.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that Joe Biden never visited these people or helped these people or cared about these people at all. And whenever he was criticized for not doing anything, he just said, how dare you criticize me? That's right-wing conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, again, California gets a blank check. It's unbelievable. And, it really reminds me, I think back to, do you guys remember what was the original 2024 theme song for the Trump campaign? It wasn't YMCA, right? It actually got changed back to YMCA because of a copyright lawsuit. But the original one was what? It was, hold on, I'm coming. That is literally what's going on right now, right? These people literally, because their own government, because of politics, wouldn't freaking help them. They literally had to hold on for several months for Trump to come to finally, their homes to be rebuilt, something very basic here. It's just unbelievable. But okay, with that said, guys, I think we basically get the idea here. Again, Trump will be visiting North Carolina tomorrow. We'll keep you updated on that. Prayers still to the people of North Carolina. I'm very glad that Trump is visiting them first before California because, look, both need helping. They're both part of America. But North Carolina, first of all, happened first. And secondly, they're the ones that really got forgotten, right? No one has forgotten about California. North Carolina has been forgotten, as, some of the people in these videos really did bring up. But, as Trump said for the first time around, right, the forgotten men and women of America are forgotten no more. That's exactly what's going on right now. North Carolina is not going to be forgotten. So it is what it is. All right, with that said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.